Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting straight into a really critical piece of Social Security for India's organized workforce. That's the Employees Pension Scheme 1995. You probably know it as EPS 95. Our goal here is to, quickly get a handle on its, let's say, volatile financial setup and also the huge changes we've seen from courts and the government lately.
Okay, yeah. And fundamentally, you have to understand the tension baked into EPS 25 right from the start. It's legally a defined benefit scheme. So your pension, it's worked out using a set formula. But here's the twist. It's funded by defined contributions. And those contributions, they were mostly capped based on a salary ceiling. Currently, that's $15,000 a month.
So for ages, even if you earn way more, your pension was calculated only on that $15,000 figure.
Exactly. Think about that disconnect. A fixed promise, the defined benefit, but based on this capped limited input.
And that mismatch is really the root cause of the ongoing actuarial deficit we hear about.
Precisely. It's like promising everyone a really nice car for retirement, but only collecting enough money over their career to maybe buy a scooter. The numbers just didn't align long term. And that's why, the government was always hesitant to bump up the benefits significantly.
Which brings us to the big shakeup. That 2022 Supreme Court decision. It seemed to just smash through that old ceiling, didn't it?
It really did. A landmark ruling. It basically said eligible employees could opt for a pension based on their actual salary, not just the $15,000 cap.
Okay, so higher pension sounds great, but what's the catch for the employee?
There's a significant financial trade-off. It got complicated operationally, too. To get that higher pension, you, the member, have to essentially go back in time.
Yeah.
You need to figure out the difference between the 8.33% contribution you did make on the capped salary and what you should have made on your actual higher salary, right back to potentially 1995.
Wow, okay.
And then you have to transfer that total difference plus all the interest it would have earned at the EPF rate over the years.
Transfer that from your regular EPF savings account into the pension fund.
Exactly. So it can be a really substantial amount moving out of your lump sum retirement savings, a big decision.
That sounds like it could seriously deplete someone's nest egg.
Did the court tackle anything else? I remember there was some issue about an extra contribution.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Another potential bombshell. The rules from 2014 said if you opted for the higher pension, you also had to pay an extra 1.16% on the salary above the ceiling. The Supreme Court specifically struck that down, said it was illegal to demand that extra bit from the employee.
Okay, so that was a win for employees then. How was that resolved?
Right. So in May 2023, the government issued a clarification. Big relief for many. They stated that this additional 1.16% needed for the higher pension option, it would now be sourced from the employer's existing contribution share. So no extra out-of-pocket for the employee on that front. It resolved a major legal deadlock. Okay, so the big legal fights seem mostly settled. Let's shift gears a bit. How is the system improving things just in terms of basic fairness and making things work better day to day? There was a change for people with shorter service, right?
That's right. A really important amendment came in June 2024. It changed how the lump sum withdrawal benefit is calculated. Before, it was all about completed years of service. So if you worked, say, 5 years and 11 months.
You lost out on those 11 months of contributions for the calculation.
Completely. You got zero credit for that nearly full year. Just wasn't fair. The new system uses completed months of service. So even someone with less than 6 months now gets something. It affects a huge number of people, apparently over 23 lakh members every year.
That does sound much fairer. And what about making things smoother administratively using technology?
Yeah, there's definite progress there. Two key things stand out. First is Prayawayas. It's basically an initiative to be proactive. The goal is to make sure retiring members get their pension payment order, their PPO, literally on the day they retire.
Oh, that's huge. No more waiting months in uncertainty.
Exactly. It removes that stressful gap people used to face. And the second thing is for existing pensioners, Jivan Pramihan. This uses face authentication technology, or FAT.
Face recognition for the life certificate.
So elderly pensioners who often find it difficult to travel don't need to go to a bank or office anymore just to prove they're alive for their annual digital life certificate. They can just do it from home using a smartphone app. Much more accessible.
So putting it all together, We've got this system trying to manage these massive court-mandated retroactive payments, billions potentially shifting funds. And at the same time, there's constant pressure to increase the minimum pension, which is still, only the €1,000 a month?
Right. And that frames the fundamental challenge, really. It's a trilemma. Can EPS 95 realistically provide adequate pensions, keep contributions fixed as they are now, and remain financially sustainable in the long run? You've got these three competing pressures. And without some kind of basic structural change, maybe rethinking contribution levels, or perhaps significantly more government funding, that core tension isn't going away. That's the big question hanging over the scheme.
All right, let's talk about something that affects millions and millions of us who earn a salary in India, the Employees Pension Scheme, or EPS. It's a journey your money takes every single month, and we're going to unpack it. You know that line on your payslip, right? The one that says Provident Fund? Every month, a chunk of your salary goes there. But where it actually ends up is a lot more complex and, frankly, way more interesting than you probably think. It's not just one path, it's two. It all kicks off right here with this familiar deduction from your pay. But here's a secret most people don't know. This single contribution is actually funding two completely different retirement accounts. Yeah, two. And they each have a very different job to do. Okay, so the first destination is your EPF account. The easiest way to think about this is like it's your own personal savings pot. It's got your name on it, it grows over time, and when you retire, you get to take it all out as one big lump sum. But, and this is the crucial part, a piece of that money takes a totally different route. It flows into the EPS, which is more like a giant collective swimming pool of money. This isn't your personal pot. It's a shared fund designed to pay everyone a steady monthly pension for life after they retire. So let's just break that down one more time because it's really the key. Your EPF is your pot of money for a one-time payout. The EPS is our pool, a shared promise that gives you a guaranteed paycheck every month for the rest of your life. So how does this magic split actually happen? Well, here's the surprising twist. It's not your contribution that gets divided, it's your employer's. Out of the 12% they put in for you, 8.33% automatically gets siphoned off into that collective pension pool. This usually happens up to a certain salary limit, but it happens every single month, behind the scenes. Okay, so we know where the money's going. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the rules of the road. What actually determines what you get back at the end of this whole journey? If there's one number you take away from all this, let it be this one, 10, the number 10. Once you've completed 10 years of service, that's it. You've officially locked in your right to get a monthly pension for the rest of your life after you turn 58. But what if you switch jobs before hitting that 10-year magic number? Don't worry, you're not left empty-handed. You've got two choices. You can just withdraw the amount that's built up. Or, and this is the smarter move, you can get something called a scheme certificate. This basically freezes your service record so you can carry it to your next job and keep building towards that 10-year goal. You know, the system wasn't always this straightforward. Until very recently, there was this really harsh rule. Let's say you worked for 9 years and 5 months. Well, tough luck. Those 5 months just wouldn't count for your withdrawal benefit. They were just gone. And this wasn't some tiny issue. We are talking about a massive problem. Just look at this number, 7 lakh. That's 700,000 claim rejections in a single year because of this rule. Thankfully, in June 2024, a huge change was made to fix this, so now every single month of your service counts, as it should. So for those who do cross that 10-year line, how much do you actually get? It all comes down to this pretty simple formula. It's your pensionable salary, which is basically the average of your last 5 years of pay, times your years of service, and then you divide the whole thing by 70. That number 70 is kind of the magic number set by the experts who run the scheme. And it's so important to remember this is way more than just a retirement plan for you. The EPS is also this incredibly powerful safety net. If anything ever happens to you, the scheme provides a lifelong income for your spouse and even helps support your kids. It's a huge piece of security for your family. All right, the journey has another, more recent twist. Think of it as an express lane that opened up for some employees to get a much, much bigger pension. But how this all came about, well, it's a bit of a complicated story. This thing has been a legal roller coaster, seriously. The rules have flipped and flopped for decades. An option opened, then it closed, and then in 2022, the Supreme Court made this landmark ruling that basically blew the door back open for a lot of people. So what is this higher pension thing? In simple terms, the court said that certain employees could choose to get a pension based on their actual full salary, not just up to the wage limit. But here's the catch. To get that bigger lifelong income, you had to agree to move a pretty big chunk of money from your personal EPF savings pot over into the collective EPS pension pool. Okay, let's step back for a second. Let's zoom out from all the rules and changes. What is the big picture here? Why is the system even designed this way? And what does it all mean for the future of retirement in India? At the end of the day, the entire system is built on one simple, fundamental trade-off. By letting a part of your employer's contribution go into that shared EPS pool, you are basically agreeing to a slightly smaller personal lump sum at retirement. And in exchange for that, you get the security of a guaranteed paycheck for the rest of your life. But as you can imagine, trying to manage this gigantic shared fund is an immense challenge for policymakers. It forces them into this constant, high-stakes balancing act between goals that are all pulling in different directions. And here it is. It's what's known as a policy trilemma. You've got 3 goals, but it is nearly impossible to achieve all of them at the same time. If you provide a really good high pensions, you either have to ask for higher contributions or you risk the whole fund running out of money down the road. It's a constant push and pull. And this, right here, is the heart of the matter. This is the core conflict that shapes every single debate about the pension scheme, from demands to raise the minimum pension to the huge financial impact of that higher pension option. Every decision you make on one point affects the other too. So the big takeaway here is that this is this incredible ongoing challenge. And it leaves all of us with a final and, frankly, a very important question about the future of retirement security in India. How do we provide a decent pension for people retiring today while making absolutely sure the fund is still there for the millions who will need it tomorrow?
Welcome to The Debate. Our focus today is the Employees Pension Scheme 1995, or EPS 95. And specifically, we're looking at this constant tension in how it's regulated, balancing decent benefits for members against, well, the fund's long-term financial stability.
Right. And the central question we're really digging into is this. Have the recent court decisions and administrative changes around EPS 95 tilted too far towards individual member equity, maybe even at the expense of the scheme's overall actuarial health?
Exactly. And I'll be arguing that these changes were, frankly, necessary corrections. They uphold fundamental rights that were being overlooked.
And I'll be taking a slightly different view. While I absolutely see the need to fix past issues, I think the way these changes have been pushed through, mostly by the courts, is creating a pretty dangerous financial strain. My argument is that focusing so heavily on maximizing individual payouts could jeopardize the whole fund for everyone.
Okay, well, let me lay out my perspective first. I believe the recent legal and administrative moves really just confirm the scheme's social purpose, its core promise. You take the big Supreme Court judgment on the pension on higher wages, the PHW option. That corrected I think, a fundamental unfairness. It basically said procedural rules can't just wipe out someone's right to a pension based on the salary they actually earned. That was a huge step for employee rights. And then you have the change in June 2024 The tweak to Table D, the tables for early withdrawal benefits. Making sure benefits are calculated on completed months of service, not just full years. That directly addressed why, apparently, over 7 lakh claims were getting rejected each year. So this evolution, it's about making sure every bit of contribution actually counts for something proportionate.
That's a compelling way to frame it, focusing on the individual equity side. But, the numbers, they paint a rather stark picture when you look at the long-term finances. The EPS 95, it's structured as this hybrid defined contribution defined benefit plan. And that structure inherently makes it, vulnerable to deficits.
Okay.
The POHA ruling, while legally sound perhaps in isolation, it essentially forced the EPFO, the Employees Provident Fund Organization, to suddenly account for huge retroactive liabilities it wasn't prepared for. And this financial pressure, this deficit, it's not abstract. It's the main reason cited officially for why the fund simply cannot meet those persistent demands from trade unions to, hike the minimum pension from 1,000 rupees to something like 7 or 9,000. They say the deficit is the blocker. So enhancing benefits without a clear, massive funding increase, it looks like it compromises the solvency for all members down the line.
I think the costs linked to POHWR are often maybe overstated because the financial hit was actually managed quite strategically. Remember, the Supreme Court specifically struck down that requirement for employees to chip in an extra 1.16% on salary over the 15,000 rupee threshold. They ruled that was ultra-virus, beyond the legal power of the scheme's rules.
Right. They struck down the employee contribution part.
Exactly. And then the EPFO's circular that followed in May 2023, it clarified how this would be handled. That extra cost, it would be drawn from the employer's existing 12% Provident Fund contribution. So this mechanism, it upheld the employee's right to the higher pension by reallocating funds already being contributed by the employer. It shows a commitment to equity that doesn't necessarily blow up the sustainability question by demanding totally new money.
Okay, but I'm sorry, I just don't quite buy that it fully neutralizes the impact. Focusing only on that 1.16% shift, I think it overlooks the very real trade-off required from the member to even opt into POHA.
What trade-off are you emphasizing?
The fact that members have to agree to potentially shift a large chunk of their liquid EPF savings, their lump sum, over to cover the differential contributions plus interest arrears for past years. This diversion, taking money out of their accessible retirement pot in exchange for a higher but non-liquid annuity. That highlights the underlying financial strain, doesn't it? It shows the scheme scrambling to gather contributions retroactively. And let's not forget the cost control measures already baked in, like the 2014 amendment. Changing the pensionable salary calculation from the last 12 months of pay to the last 60 months. That wasn't for fun, it was explicitly done to smooth out late career salary spikes and mitigate future liabilities. It proves that financial viability has always demanded these kinds of structural, sometimes difficult compromises.
Certainly undeniable that the EPS 95 is grappling with this dual pressure. On one hand, yes, the courts have pushed the EPFO to honor the right to pensions on actual wages. And these recent admin changes have made things like withdrawals fair, especially for those with shorter service periods.
But on the other hand, you have this undeniable reality of an actuarial deficit, and it is being made worse by these high liability mandates like POHA. It means this continuous push for, let's call it social adequacy, is constantly running up against the financial limits inherent in the scheme's structure, which is fundamentally based on contributions received.
So ultimately, we're left to rest room with that fundamental question. Can the goal of social adequacy, of fair pensions, be achieved in a way that's sustainable? Can it be done without compromising the long-term financial health that's absolutely essential to fulfilling that pension promise for millions of workers?
Precisely. And balancing those individual rights against the collective solvency of the fund. Well, there's clearly a lot more to unpack there. It's a complex equation with no easy answers.